Hello my friends, it is time for me to do another Kobo update, another Kobo video. I have had my Kobo for, how many times can I say that in like 30 seconds? I've had it for 6 months now, so I feel like I've had enough time to use it, give a real review. Once the initial like honeymoon phase has worn off, I want to share some of my favorite features of the Kobo, some tips and tricks, as well as one feature that in my previous videos, everyone is like, I can't believe you don't know about this feature. This is the best feature ever. It's a little underwhelming to me, but because so many people commented about it, I will talk about it so that you can know about it too. And maybe you will love it because it seems like most people do. So 6 months, I have gone from being a physical book girl, physical books only girl, to actually really enjoying ebooks. It used to be that if I read an ebook, I was using my phone or a Fire tablet or even a Kindle, it would pretty much bring my enjoyment level down a star. And it was just because I didn't enjoy the reading experience of reading on an e-reader or some kind of device. The Kobo has changed that for me. And now, honestly, sometimes I have a book on here, I'll get like the book out from the library, and I have the physical book, and I will choose to read it on here. I don't even know who I am anymore, and I'm glad that I've kind of made this switch because we moved a year ago and books are heavy, and so I'm excited that I don't need to own quite as many physical books. Just thinking about the next move. It was a lot of muscle building. So let's get into some of my favorite things about the Kobo. First of all, I just like the setup of the home screen compared to the Kindle. I feel like it's easy to flip between home, my books, the notebooks. It's just really nicely laid out. I love that it's also got the books and the authors, the series and collections laid out super easily for me to sort my books that way if I want. I make good use of the collections option. My favorite one is I have one that's labeled month. It has an asterisk. Oh my goodness, I just can't talk right now. At the beginning of it, just so that it bumps up to the top, because that's the one I use the most. And that is where I put like books that I would love to get to this month. It's a little excessive. We are more than halfway into the month and I think I have 19 books in here. Obviously I put in a few extra, but it's really good for me to know which ones are my priority books. Highly recommend doing that. I also have a bunch of other categories, including like all my unread arcs and my unread priority, different seasons, different genres. I really like that feature. I'm pretty much always just in the month collection unless I'm adding books to it. So love the layout. Love, also just want to say the responsiveness of this compared to my Kindle. It is so quick. It responds to touch so well. Very, very good. One side note is that the Kindle Color is still not available in Canada. They're still not doing pre-orders or anything like that. In the future, if they ever do, I think I might want to purchase one because I love the color option for this. Even like this cover isn't overly colorful, it's just got some blue on it, but it's just so much more enticing to pick up a book that has some color. One thing I just recently learned is I can still move over my books from Kindle over to my Kobo, which is great. I have started to enjoy reading on my Kindle a bit more than I used to, but 100% still prefer this. So whenever I purchase a book from Kindle, I move it over onto here, and that makes my life better. But one of the things that's really great with Kobo is you can download your books. So you can go onto the website, download the books onto your computer, which is great because I have experienced with Kindle, some of the books get removed, you know, the publisher or the author decides to take them down, and then they get removed from your device if you have it set to automatically sync. This way you can download your books, and even if they end up removing them, you still have a copy. Because like an author, if they take a book down from a site where they're selling a book. They don't come into your personal library and take the book out. I think you should be able to have access to it. So I love that ability to be able to download it. And even with moving books over from my Kindle to here, my point here is not to steal books. My point is just to be able to read books, ebooks that I own, on the device that I prefer. The big draw, no, there's so many big draws, but like one of the big draws for me for the Kobo versus the Kindle is that here in Canada, we can get library books on the Kobo, but we can't on the Kindle. So that was kind of a no-brainer because I read a lot of books from the library. I use my library a ton, and so I can just get a book from there, read it on here. Major bonus. If you are American, then you can do it on either. You could do it on Kobo or Kindle, but not being able to do it on Kindle was a real drawback. Definite bonus for this. In the Kobo, it also has a really cool feature where you can go to the Discover tab and check out the book deal of the day. Sometimes it's a book that I'm not interested in, and sometimes it's one that I actually am, like Mistborn. I already own the ebook for this, but I love that you can get like legitimate books for $2.99 or whatever the sale price might be, and it's not always just like an obscure book. They're, from what I've seen, they're like usually, or all the ones I've seen actually, are books that are quite popular. So that's great, and you can just see that within the Kobo. Another fun feature for me is the ability, first of all, to see the cover, like I said, and in color. You can do that on a Kindle generally as well, but sometimes mine like doesn't load it. Even though it should, it will just show the screensaver instead. I've had zero problems with this, but what I really like is this little tab thing here. It tells you it's sleeping, or when you're charging it, it tells you that it's charging and the percentage. And it tells you how much you're into the book, currently 1%, and how much time left. It says 8 hours to go. That means 8 hours and X number of minutes. Once it's under an hour, it'll tell you the actual minutes. I'm not sure why it doesn't say 8 hours and like 5 minutes or whatever it would be, but this is really handy. I love that little feature. And when you are reading a book, I'll go into the one that I'm actually reading right now. On the bottom here, you can have this little tracker thing. It's a little black bar that shows how far you are into the book. And you can also set up your top and like your header and your footer to say different things. I have my header to tell me the chapter that I'm on and how many pages in the chapter, currently 10 out of 14. And the bottom I have it set to, says the book title and how much of the book that I've read. There are a couple different options for that, but that's what I found works the best for me. And the reading stats are so much fun. So there's two different ways to do this. You can go into the More tab and then go to Activity, and that will tell you your stats for the particular book that you're reading, but as well on the bottom it tells you like the stats of all your items. So I currently have 65 books I've finished. I've read 13% of the books on here. I have marked most of mine as read if I've read them before, but there are some that I've moved over that I haven't marked as read. So I have 124 hours total reading. I'm not sure if that's how many hours worth of books I've read or how many hours I have left. I don't really know how that works, but it's cool. But what I really like, the one I use the most, is when you're in a book and you go to the little graph bar thing, it will tell you how much you're into your chapter. So I'm 64% into my current chapter with this book. I've got 5 minutes to go. My next chapter is 19 minutes to read, and then it's got like a little chapter bar graph thing. Shows you how long the chapters are and how much time you have left to go in your book. So in Dearest Josephine, I have 5.2 hours left to go. Fun stats, love it. I'm not even like a stats person, but I think that's a lot of fun. Okay, and here is the feature that everyone was like, I can't believe you didn't know this or didn't. I don't like this feature, but I'm going to show it to you because so many people seem to love it. And that is being able to adjust the brightness on your screen by swiping up or down on the left-hand side. So you just swipe up and it makes it brighter, swipe down and it makes it darker. The reason I don't like this is because it's so hard to be precise. I personally prefer to go up to the top and hit the brightness thing and adjust it down I like mine very low, between 1 and 5%, depending on like the time of day. And I find that harder to do with the swiping the brightness thing. But maybe you will be a brightness swiper. So hopefully that helps everyone that loves that feature. Also with the brightness, I believe with my Kindle, and I don't know if this is true with the newer ones, but there's a lot more options for brightness on here. You can go up to 100%. Whereas I feel like my Kindle is only like 10 or 20 options. So there's a lot more room for adjusting on here. And one of the things I didn't mention in one of my previous videos, because I kind of just assumed it was a given, is the different ways to turn the pages. Now, I love this one because it's so easy to hold. This space here is just so smart. When I'm holding a Kindle, I never know how to hold it, like where to put my hands. This is great. But also the page turning buttons, and it's like right there, so you can turn a page by pressing the button, you know, forward and backwards. But you can also tap to turn the page or swipe, and you can also turn that off. I think some people turn off the tap option if they do a lot of annotating, but there's different ways to be able to turn the pages. So one of the things I didn't mention, because I'm obsessed with the buttons, I pretty much always just use the buttons. Someone didn't realize that you can actually just tap and swipe. And yes, you can. It's just not something I use very often because I'm kind of button obsessed, and it just makes sense when you're holding it. But sometimes if I'm eating or something, then I'll just tap it. Since I mentioned annotating, let's talk about it. I bought a pen. I bought the Meta pen. It's a certain kind. I will leave it linked because I don't remember what it's called, for annotating. This is just like the Kobo pen, but it's a bit cheaper, and you can write directly onto the page. You can write over top of the words. You can do what you want. I have had this for 2 months and I haven't used it a ton. Partially, first of all, it is great because it is magnetic, so it does just magnetize to there, but I'm kind of always scared that I'm gonna lose it. So I generally don't have it on here. So then when I want to highlight something or make a note, then I'll just highlight it and make a note by typing it on. I want to get better at this. I love the idea. With my case, it's more secure, but I'm just kind of terrified of losing it. But I wanted to mention it because it's something I want to get better at. And speaking of my case, I do have this case. It's like an antique book kind of case. I like this one because it's got the strap where you can hold it that way, and it has a stand, but it's very bulky. So I only use this when I'm going out and I want to take my book along. I don't use this regularly. I don't use it at home. When I'm at home, I just take it right out. But there is enough space that I can put my pen into this little space, and it magnetizes because of the Kobo when it's in here. I can put it in here and still close it. So that is a cool feature. So both of these, the case and the pen, I like, but I don't use a ton yet. Maybe I will more in the future. And another thing I love, I mentioned this in my initial, I think when I did my e-reader comparison, is this is super light. My Kindle is smaller, like it doesn't have all this extra. It's smaller, and I think even a little smaller this way, and it's heavier, like significantly heavier. You can notice a difference. This is so light. It makes it easier to read and hold, and for your wrist not to get sore. A couple other cool features. One that I like is if you're reading multiple books. So if you want to read, sometimes I like to read a nonfiction and a fiction, and you want to switch between them. Jared and I were just talking about this last night. You can just swipe down and it shows you your 3 most recent reads, and it's super easy just to pick one and it will switch to that book. It's all very quick, it's very intuitive. Love that feature. And another feature that's really cool is the rotation. So I usually have it set so that it rotates just the 2 different directions, so I can hold it upright this way, or I can hold it upright this way and it switches. Love that, because then you can use different hands. I usually hold it in my left hand if I'm like eating or drinking, and then other than that, I almost always use my right hand. Love that feature. I usually have it turned off so it doesn't rotate like in the landscape mode. you can turn that on if you want. You can have it set to rotate, auto rotate, so it will rotate all 3 ways, or I guess 4 ways probably. Or you can lock it onto portrait, or you can lock it onto landscape. Like I said, I always lock it onto portrait because I don't want to read it on landscape. That seems kind of weird, but I like that there's the option. Something that maybe some people don't like, but I actually find is a bonus, is the fact that there's no clock when you're reading. I am pretty good at like not reading too long, but I can get obsessed with the time. So I like that I have to tap it in order to see the time. For some people that's a con. For me it's a pro. Each to his own. And then I also really enjoy the way it does a bookmark. It's like it dog ears the page, which is just a fun little, I don't know, I feel like the Kindle bookmark is kind of lame. Once I found out that's what it was a little dog ear, totally loved it. And it saves it in your annotations, makes it easy to go back to it. It's a fun little feature. I'm also a person that is totally willing to dog ear a regular book. I mean, my own. I wouldn't dog ear a library book or other people's books, but yeah, love that. Also, one of the benefits of it being color is you can highlight in different colors. So often different colors for me will mean different things. It comes with 4 different colors and it's just fun. I also like just to see different colors on the page. It's the little things that bring me joy. And then a like positive and a negative we're gonna end on is Kobo Plus. So just like Kindle Unlimited, Kobo has their own thing called Kobo Plus. The selection is not as great as Kindle Unlimited, especially if you like indie authors and that kind of thing. My youngest just sneezed like 6 times in a row. That's her thing. But there are a number of indie authors that are slowly moving over. With Kindle's whole thing in the winter, a number of people decided to either leave Kindle or leave Kindle Unlimited and move over. Kindle Unlimited has a clause that if you're on Kindle Unlimited, you can't be on another e-reading platform. But if you just have the ebook on there, I think you can. And I understand why some authors want to stay on Kindle Unlimited. There's more people at this point still using that, but hopefully over time, Kobo Plus will become more used and then more authors will come over there. I think if I remember everything, those are like my favorite features. Like I said, I have been loving this. Even this morning, I woke up too early, read for 45 minutes, and then went back to sleep for a bit. Something you can't do with a physical book. Plus, these are so nice to travel with. Even if I am still that person that travels with like 2 ebooks plus a couple physical books, at least it's not like 10 physical books. Saving a little bit of space and weight when I travel. So if you have a Kobo, I would love to hear some of your favorite features. Has this brought up more questions for you? Are you more interested in having one? I'm very surprised at how much I have completely converted into loving ebooks and my Kobo. Thanks for hanging out with me for another video.